Welcome to my mini-series where we look at reasons why you never seem to get rich. 19-year-olds are becoming millionaires on TikTok, tech bros are retiring at 30, and people seemingly less intelligent than you are living your dream life. And here you are, working harder than ever, yet your bank account remains stagnant. In fact, you are in debt and way out of your depth. Why does the threshold of financial freedom feel like it's moving further away? Well, this is the first reason, and you better brace yourself because you're not going to like it. Reason 1. The scarcity mindset. The bandwidth tax lowering your IQ. The first reason why you never seem to get rich is the scarcity mindset. Most people assume that being broke is simply a math problem, that if you just had more money, your problems would vanish. But behavioral psychology tells a much darker story. The most dangerous thing about being stuck in a financial rut isn't the empty bank account. It is the physical and cognitive damage that not having enough does to your brain. This phenomenon was brought to light by groundbreaking research from Senthil Mullainathan, a Harvard economist, and Eldar Shafir, a Princeton psychology professor. Their studies revealed that poverty isn't just a lack of resources, it is a constant, heavy tax on your mental processing power. They discovered that when humans experience scarcity, whether it's a lack of money, time, or even food, our brains undergo a shift in how they function. This is known as the bandwidth tax. Imagine your brain is a computer. On a normal day, you have plenty of processing power to run complex programs like long-term planning, self-control, and creative problem-solving. But when you are under the pressure of scarcity, your brain tunnels. It focuses all its energy on the immediate threat, like an overdue rent notice or a car that won't start. This tunneling is a survival mechanism, but it comes at a massive cost. The researchers found that this mental load can actually lower your effective IQ by as much as 13 points. To put that in perspective, losing 13 IQ points is the equivalent of losing an entire night's sleep, or the difference between an average person and someone considered gifted. This tax makes you more prone to mistakes, self-sabotage, and poor decisions that keep you trapped in the cycle of poverty. Here is how to fix that. Step 1. Perform a mental load audit to identify your tunneling triggers. To truly begin your journey of self-improvement, you have to stop the silent, invisible leak that is draining your brain of its power. This isn't just about money, it's about your mental health and your ability to function as a human being. Think about that suffocating feeling you get when you're standing in the grocery store checkout line, secretly doing math in your head, praying that the total doesn't exceed the $42.07 you know is left in your account. In that moment, your heart rate spikes, your palms get sweaty, and your world shrinks down to a tiny, terrifying tunnel. You aren't thinking about your 5-year plan or your personal growth. You are just trying to survive the next 30 seconds without the embarrassment of a declined card. This is what researchers Senthil Mullainathan and Eldar Shafir called tunneling. When you're in the tunnel, your psychology shifts. Your brain effectively hijacks all your processing power to deal with the immediate fire in front of you. This is the bandwidth tax in its rawest form. Research shows that this mental load is so heavy it can drop your functional IQ by 13 points, the equivalent of being legally drunk or missing a full night's sleep. You aren't making bad choices because you're unintelligent. You're making them because your brain is running on an outdated, overloaded processor that is literally too tired to care about the future. To break out, you must perform a mental load audit. This is a deep, emotional dive into the specific thoughts that are stealing your motivation. You need to sit down with a high-quality physical planner, something with enough space to really vent, and move these thoughts from your unconscious mind to the paper. Don't just list bills. That's too vague. Write down the gut-wrenching details, like I'm terrified of checking the mail because of the yellow envelopes, or I feel like a failure every time I have to tell my kids we can't go to the movies. These are your bandwidth leakers. The goal of this audit is to identify your tunneling triggers. For many, it's the ritual of checking a bank app 20 times a day, hoping the number miraculously changed. Every time you do that, you're paying the tax. You're using up your willpower you should be using to build a side business or learn a new skill. By documenting these triggers in a structured daily journal, you start to build the self-awareness needed to stop the cycle. You realize that the fire isn't as big as it feels when it's trapped in your head. You move from being a victim of your circumstances to an observer of your mindset. This audit clears the mental RAM of your brain, allowing you to stop focusing on the now and start focusing on the next. You are essentially giving your brain a much-needed upgrade, providing the resilience required to finally see the opportunities for financial freedom that have been standing right in front of you the whole time. Step 2. Create slack in your life to stop the cognitive decline. Imagine your life is like a suitcase you're trying to pack for a week-long trip. When that suitcase is stuffed so full that the seams are white and the zipper is screaming, adding even single pair of socks becomes an absolute crisis. You have to sit on the lid, rearrange everything, and eventually you might have to take something else out just to make it fit. This is exactly what living without slack feels like in your brain. In their groundbreaking research, Senthil Mullainathan and Eldar Shafir explain that wealth isn't just about the digits in your bank account, it's about the mental breathing room you possess. When you have no slack, no extra time, no extra money, and no extra energy, every tiny hiccup in life becomes a full-blown catastrophe. A $30 late fee doesn't just cost you $30, it costs you your mental health, because your mental suitcase was already at its breaking point. Living this way keeps you in a permanent, exhausting state of survival mode. Your brain is so busy scanning for the next disaster that it has zero capacity for self-improvement or personal development. You find yourself snapping at your partner, losing your patience with your kids, and making silly mistakes at work simply because you are redlining your life. You lose the motivation to ever try anything new because your brain is convinced that one more task will be the thing that finally breaks you. To fix this, you have to intentionally build slack back into your system to protect your mindset. For instance, you can use a simple budgeting binder with cash envelopes to manage your weekly spending. This physical system takes the exhausting math out of your daily life. When you can physically see that your grocery envelope is getting thin, your brain doesn't have to waste energy calculating, worrying, and stressing every time you walk into a store. You are essentially buying back your brain power by moving the stress from your head into a physical, visible system. The most powerful way to create slack is through the automation protocol. If you are still manually paying every bill, you are effectively choosing to pay a massive bandwidth tax every single month. Every time you sit down to pay a bill, you are forcing your brain to confront your lack of resources, which triggers that 13-point IQ drop all over again. Instead, you need to set up a system where your essential bills are paid without you ever looking at them. This removes the decision fatigue that leads to self-sabotage. When you don't have to decide to be responsible every single month, you preserve your willpower for high-value tasks, like researching ways to increase your income or practicing a new skill. Another crucial part of creating slack is the buffer fund. Now, this isn't a 6-month emergency fund. It feels too far away and impossible when you're struggling. This is a life happens fund of just $500. This $500 acts as a shock absorber for your psychology. When the coffee machine breaks or your kid needs a last-minute school supply, you don't have to panic. You don't have to tunnel. You just take it from the slack. This prevents the devastating cognitive effects of scarcity from taking over your life. You will find that as soon as you have even a tiny bit of slack, your emotional intelligence returns. You become more patient, more creative, and more capable of seeing the path to financial freedom that have been standing right in front of you the whole time. By intentionally creating these gaps in your life, you are moving from a mindset of just getting by to one of abundance. You are giving yourself the gift of a clear head, which is the most valuable asset you will ever own. Without slack, you are a victim of your circumstances, forever stuck on the treadmill of not enough. With slack, you become the architect of your future. This is the foundation of self-mastery, creating an environment where your brain is free to think, dream, and eventually build wealth. You are teaching your brain that you are safe, which is the only state in which true consistency and growth can happen.
Step 3. Implement a 24-hour wait rule to combat impulsive decision-making. We have all been there. You've had a brutal day at work. Your boss was breathing down your neck, and you feel completely unappreciated. You open your phone, and suddenly an ad for a sleek new gadget or a pair of shoes pops up. At that moment, your brain isn't thinking about your long-term financial freedom. It is screaming for a win. It wants a hit of dopamine, that chemical in your brain that makes you feel a temporary rush of pleasure to numb the pain of a hard day. This is the retail therapy trap, and it is a classic form of self-sabotage. When you are already suffering from a scarcity mindset, your brain is more likely to choose a small, immediate reward today over a massive, life-changing reward years from now. This is a biological glitch that keeps everyday people broke because they are literally spending their way out of a bad mood. In psychology, this is known as present bias. It is the reason why the $5 latte or the $50 bargain on Amazon feels so much more important in the moment than the $5,000 you need for an emergency fund. Your lizard brain, the primitive part of your mind focused on survival, doesn't understand the concept of a retirement account. It only understands that you feel bad now, and this purchase will make you feel good now. To fight this, you have to build resilience by creating a physical gap between the urge to buy and the act of spending. You need a way to move the decision from your emotional lizard brain to your logical pilot brain. The most effective way to do this is to implement a strict 24-hour wait rule for every single non-essential purchase. To make this work, you can use a simple pocket-sized habit tracker, or even just a basic spiral-bound notebook that you keep with you at all times. When you see something you want to buy, you're not allowed to say no because no feels like a punishment and triggers more stress. Instead, you say later. You must write down the item, the price, the store, and the exact time you felt the urge to buy it. Then you walk away. By writing it down in a physical spending log, you are signaling to your brain that the request has been heard, which helps quiet the emotional noise. You must then wait a full 24 hours before you are allowed to pull out your credit card. During those 24 hours, something amazing happens in your psychology. The tunneling effect wears off. The dopamine spike subsides, and your logical brain comes back online. You'll often find that the must-have item from yesterday looks like total junk today. This practice is a masterclass in self-discipline. It teaches you that you are the boss of your impulses, not the other way around. Over time, this builds the self-mastery required to handle larger sums of money. If you can't say wait to a $20 impulse buy, you'll never have the willpower to say yes to a $20,000 investment. For larger purchases, anything over $100, you should extend this to a 30-day wait rule. You can use a visual goal-setting chart on your fridge to track these bigger items. If you still want the item after 30 days and it fits within your slack from step 2, then you can buy it guilt-free. But more often than not, you'll realize that the need was actually just a temporary emotional leak. This shift is vital for your personal growth. By practicing delayed gratification, you are literally rewiring your brain to value your future more than your temporary feelings. This is how you stop being a consumer and start becoming an owner. Every time you put that notebook back in your pocket without spending, you are winning a battle for your mental health and your future wealth. You are proving that your motivation to get rich is stronger than your temporary urge to feel fine. Step 4. Reframe your internal narrative from lack to resourcefulness. The words you whisper to yourself when no one else is listening are the most powerful forces in your financial life. If you grew up in a household where money was a source of constant fighting, or if you've been struggling for so long that being broke has become part of your identity, your unconscious mind is likely running a program of lack. You might catch yourself saying things like, "I'll never get ahead," or "rich people are just lucky," or the most dangerous phrase of all, "I can't afford that." In the world of psychology, this is called a fixed mindset, and it acts like a physical cage around your potential. Every time you tell yourself what you can't do, you are reinforcing the scarcity mindset and effectively shutting down the creative parts of your brain that are designed to find solutions. This is the ultimate form of self-sabotage, because you are convincing your brain to stop looking for a way out before you even try. To fix this, you must practice a technique called cognitive reframing. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending your problems don't exist. It's about shifting your perspective so your brain stays in problem-solving mode instead of panic mode. For example, when you see a high-quality item or service that could help your personal growth, but it's out of your current budget, your gut reaction is to say, "I can't afford that." That statement is a dead end. It tells your brain to stop working. Instead, you need to ask a question. How can I afford that? Or what value can I create to earn the money for this? This simple shift from a statement to a question acts like a key in a lock. It forces your brain to stay open, scanning your environment for opportunities, side hustles, or ways to save that you would have missed if you had just shut the door with a "can't." You can make this easier by using a set of positive affirmation cards or a daily gratitude journal that focuses specifically on your strengths and resources rather than your deficits. Every morning, instead of scrolling through social media and comparing your behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel, write down 3 things you do have that can help you build wealth, like your health, a specific skill, or even just your discipline. By focusing on what is already working, you build the resilience needed to handle the things that aren't. This practice helps rewire your brain through a process called neuroplasticity, where you literally build new neural pathways that support an abundance mindset. You are teaching your brain to see yourself as a resourceful creator rather than a helpless victim. Think about the way you talk to your children or your loved ones about money. If you constantly tell them "we're poor" or "we don't have enough," you are passing down the bandwidth tax like a family heirloom. You are teaching them that the world is a place of limitation and fear. Instead, reframe the conversation to focus on choice and self-mastery. For instance, instead of saying "we can't afford that toy," try saying "we are choosing to put our money toward our new house right now." This shows that money is a tool used to reach a goal, not a master that controls your life. This change in language builds self-confidence in yourself and those around you, turning financial management into an empowering act of personal development. To stay on track, you might want to use a notebook to keep a resourcefulness log. Every time you find a creative way to save money, negotiate a bill, or earn an extra $20, write it down. When you are feeling low and the scarcity mindset tries to creep back in, look at this log. It serves as physical proof that you are capable of change. It reminds you that you have the focus and the consistency to overcome your current situation. Getting rich is as much about your psychology as it is about your bank account. By changing your story from one of not enough to one of working toward more, you are finally giving yourself the mental permission to succeed. You are moving from a state of fear to a state of motivation, which is the only place where true financial freedom can grow. Step 5. Prioritize high-value bandwidth activities with a concrete daily plan. If you followed the first 4 steps, you've identified your triggers, created some slack, stopped your impulsive spending, and started changing how you talk to yourself. But all of that effort is wasted if you don't have a plan for how to use your recovered brain power. Think of your mental energy like a daily allowance. If you spend that allowance on small, useless things like checking social media, arguing with strangers, or stressing over things you can't change, you will be broke by the time you need to make a move that actually matters. This is where most people fail. They find a little bit of breathing room and immediately fill it back up with mental junk food. In behavioral psychology, this is called decision fatigue. Researchers like Roy Baumeister have found that your ability to make good choices is a limited resource that drains throughout the day. Every tiny decision you make, from what to wear to what to eat for lunch, chips away at your self-discipline. By the time you get home from a long day of work, your decision tank is empty. When your bandwidth is low, you revert to your old safe and often poor habits. To fix this, you need a plan that protects your peak hours from being stolen by low-value tasks. The first part of your plan is to implement the rule of 1. Every single evening before you go to bed, you need to identify the one and only one high-value task that will move you closer to self-mastery or wealth. This is the task you'll focus on in the morning when you wake up.
You can use a structured daily planner to write this down physically. This is crucial because it removes the decision from your morning. When you wake up, your brain is fresh and your IQ isn't yet taxed by the day's stress. If you already know your mission, you don't waste that peak energy wondering what to do. Your high-value task might be researching a new certification or practicing a high-income skill. Whatever it is, it must happen before you touch your phone or check your email. You are essentially paying yourself first with your mental energy. The second part of the plan is to ruthlessly manage your environment. To create real focus, you need to eliminate the sources of distraction. This means putting your phone in another room or using a physical lockbox for electronics during your high-value hour. Research on productivity shows that even having your phone face down on the desk next to you lowers your cognitive capacity because a part of your brain is constantly working to not check it. By removing the temptation entirely, you free up that hidden bandwidth for personal development. You aren't just working, you are working with your full 100% capacity. The third part is the 5-minute start to overcome the paralysis that comes with a scarcity mindset. When you're used to struggling, big goals like starting a business feel impossible and overwhelming, which leads to procrastination. To bypass this, tell yourself you will only work on your high-value task for 5 minutes. Use a timer to track this. Once the timer starts, the tunneling effect usually breaks, and you'll find the motivation to keep going. This simple trick lowers the threat level in your brain and allows you to build the consistency needed for long-term success. You are training your brain that you can handle hard things, one small chunk at a time. Finally, you must conduct a weekly bandwidth review. Once a week, whatever day you deem fit, like Sunday, look back at your week and ask yourself, did I spend my best hours on my best goals? If the answer is no, don't beat yourself up. That just causes more stress and more scarcity. Instead, adjust your system. Maybe you need to go to bed earlier, or maybe you need to say no to more social invitations that drain your energy. This constant adjustment is the secret to resilience. You are building a life where your brain is no longer a victim of circumstances, but a tool for creating abundance. This is the ultimate form of self-improvement, making sure that the very best of you is going toward the things that will actually change your life. When you protect your bandwidth, you protect your future. Which brings us to the end of reason number 1. Now that you know the first reason why you aren't rich yet is because your brain is literally exhausted from the stress of just getting by, it's time to stop blaming your lack of willpower. You aren't lazy, you've just been paying a brain tax that makes it impossible to think clearly. By using these simple steps to clear out the mental clutter and give your mind some breathing room, you are finally putting yourself back in the driver's seat of your life and your personal growth. But fixing your mindset is only the first piece of the puzzle. Even with the right head on your shoulders, there is a massive ignorance tax that might be draining your bank account without you even realizing it. Please check out the next video in this mini-series for reason 2 why you're not rich and the simple ways to fix it.